So we are back once again on the 1975 diesel step side, and I just gotta admit the steering is driving me absolutely crazy that I can't figure out what it is. So today we're going to delve into some really in-depth looks at this thing, and basically I'm going to check every single thing I can, and we're going to see if we can track this problem down. I don't want to throw the parts cannon at it. I don't want to just start replacing everything in there, and it's just a bad idea for me from a professional standpoint, and you could waste a lot of money too. So that's the main reason I don't want to do it. I want to describe the feeling of the steering because I don't think I've described it properly. Basically, you'll be driving along, you'll be holding the wheel, everything seems fine and relatively stiff, and then all of a sudden you don't even have to hit a major bump or anything. All of a sudden, just when you get up to speed or whatever, generally over 25, 30 miles an hour, it gets really sketchy over 35. And it doesn't happen all the time. It's kind of intermittent. You'll be driving along and without hitting anything or hitting a bump or anything like that, or changing the road crown or anything like that, all of a sudden you're holding the wheel, and the front wheels will just decide to kind of go off on their own one way or the other, and it's not consistent. And you'll still be holding the wheel in the same position. So then you go to overcorrect and you got to turn the wheel a good bit, and then suddenly it catches and it'll bring you back. But you know, then it'll go the other way, and it's quite sudden. There's really no warning or anything, and that's one of the things that makes it so incredibly dangerous, because you don't get the feedback in the wheel that it's going to happen, and you can't correct fast enough when you turn the wheel to finally correct for it to keep you from going too far. It's not like an instant thing and you could just recenter it and bring it back in. It's already wandered a foot or two or even 3 before you can catch it and manage to bring it back in. And that's what really makes it so dangerous, because just a few feet will bring you over into the other lane or off the road hitting a mailbox, and it's not a good thing. Even though hitting a mailbox with this bumper would probably do some serious damage to the mailbox and not touch the bumper, I would rather not do that to anybody's mailbox. So let's see if we can resolve this issue that is driving me crazy. So in the last video, and by the way, I'm shooting this before that video has been released, we were talking about the loose steering and, you know, the steering box and all that stuff. I am aware of the frame crack issues with these things. Sometimes you can't see it until you take the steering box off. I don't know, let's take a look. Let's just see if we can see anything from this side. I mean, in here, there's really nothing. I think I would see it in the dirt if it was cracked. I mean, this frame looks really good, honestly. I'm not seeing it if the frame's cracked. I'm a little confused. The bolts aren't loose, they're all there. And I'm just not seeing anything here. Alright, okay, there's a bolt missing there. We'll definitely do something about that, but I'm not sure that that is an issue anyway. Now this truck, when he did this, he welded in this extra brace, and just so you can see what we're dealing with here, so he welded in this extra brace for stability, and also of course the bumper is bolted on. Not welded, it's bolted, and of course this stabilizer bar here is still in place, bolted in. I mean, I can't imagine that one bolt would do a whole lot, but you never know. It could. I just can't imagine it's doing the quantity of movement that we have. The spring bushings, I mean, they're pretty new here. I mean, relatively for what the truck is, and like I don't think the spring bushings are shot and like throwing it around or anything. you know, I can't be 100% sure because I don't have a camera. I don't have a camera mount I can put down here while I drive it. I mean, the spring packs are nice and tight. They're actually shockingly tight. The pads are still in place there. Yeah, I'm not sure. I am not sure at all. So I got in here and I thought maybe I'll check the bolts for the steering box, and they are not tight. So I'm gonna tighten these up, at least this one isn't, and see if that makes any difference. Yeah, that one's fairly tight. Might get a bar on that to just, I don't know if I can get to that one back there. How does one get to that one? The wrench maybe? Anyway, I think there's one, there should be one up top. Anyway, I'm gonna do that. I noticed that this hole, because I got a bolt and I tried to stick it through and it would go through the frame, but not through this support. The holes aren't aligned, and I'm wondering if the frame is bent or... Anyway, we need to do something about that. We need to get those aligned so we can get a bolt in there. I mean, it could be part of the problem. This could be a couple factors that are just, you know, combining. And then we'll look at the steering shaft and the rag joint up close and personal. Alright. Well, I'll tighten these up and try to get a bolt in there, and then we'll see. Alright, got that bolt in. I tightened two of the bolts, two of the three. I think there's 3 bolts that go into this thing. 2 of the bolts were very loose. I tightened them up and also jam nutted the end of the bolt on the steering box side. I don't know if that'll do anything, but yeah. And I'm not sure if that is the cause of our looseness. I don't know. Let's look at the steering shaft. Okay, so we got the shaft that goes into the box, and I don't know, there's a lot of slop in there. I would say a lot. There's a lot for a modern system. I'll take a closer look and see if I can see. I need 2 hands for this. I'm gonna set you guys down. I don't know. I'll let you know if I find anything terrifically abnormal at the steering shaft. Alright, I didn't really find anything with the steering linkage there. I'm gonna set this up here, and hopefully we'll be able to watch for flecks in there. Well, I won't be able to watch because I'm gonna be turning the wheels, but I'll watch it back later, and anyway, we'll be able to see how much that steering box moves, basically. So I'm gonna go play with the wheel a little bit. So we'll take a look at that. I should be able, what I'll be looking for is how much this turns versus how much this turns, and any flex or movement in the frame versus the box. So yeah, you guys all have already seen it, but I'm gonna go watch that footage right now. So I watched the footage back, and I didn't see any flexing or movement. You can see a little bit of slop in the box before the shaft actually starts to turn the pitman arm. I did tighten up the adjustment, the gear lash, just a hair. Just took some of the looseness out with the screw like I did last time. Like I said before, you definitely don't want to over tighten that or play with that too much, but I think the steering box is already kind of on the way out. So in that regard, I'm not going to worry too much about it, but I try to take some of the slop out that way. So I guess it is time to drive it again and see if these changes did anything. Here we go again. I wish I could do this all fancy and get lots of like exterior footage of me driving by and everything, but there's only one of me and I only have one camera, and it's a public road, so it's a little hard to stop and set up the camera. And anyway, I'm not really into the, you know, actually performing the fancy videography that people do these days, so I'm just gonna have to bear with my, you know, view from the cabin perspective here. Back on there. All right. Buckle up. Hopefully you guys won't tip over like sometimes happens when I'm driving here. I'll try to keep an eye on it. All right, let's give it a go. What are we gonna do about this? Next step, I guess, is to jack up the wheels and double check the ball joints and everything. They were not that loose before, and like I've said, the steering arm, I guess the drag link, is connected right to the hub, basically. So it's not like it can just go off on its own and wander, because it's a direct link all the way down. If your ball joints and your link arm are good, your tie rods and all that, it's a direct link down from your pitman arm all the way to the actual hub on the wheel. So I don't know, we're gonna go through and double check everything again. When people have this problem, they just throw the parts cannon at it and start replacing stuff, and I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to replace only things that are bad or wrong. I'm not sure what to do. I don't want to throw the parts cannon at it because I don't have the money to do that. Yeah, I guess we'll keep looking. We definitely didn't find it. It didn't change a single thing. It's just as bad. As soon as I got up to speed, bam, it was out of control. So yeah, I don't know. So I have this wheel jacked up off the ground, and before I do this, I just want to say, before I swapped this axle, I kind of had the same steering issues, which makes me think it's not the axle, but that's why I keep shying away from things like ball joints. And I mean, it's tight left to right. It's tight. There's no movement, no wiggle at all in that. And I can't turn it there a little bit. I can fight against the steering, but I really got to tug on it to do that. And I'm only moving that pitman arm just a hair when I do that. It just doesn't feel like it's back feeding. I don't know what to say about this, honestly. I'm not even gonna bother. Well, yeah, I'll do the other wheel just for due diligence, but I mean, it shouldn't be. It's like both wheels are moving when it does this. That's what it feels like, and it certainly doesn't make any noises when it doesn't when you're driving. All right, well, let's lower that down and jack up this one. Okay, try this one. Oh, there's definitely Now it's moving both wheels though, but that's not in the ball joints or anything. It's translating through the drag link. No up or down movement. It's tight. So as we go through this, I've been trying to explain my troubleshooting procedures as best I can verbally as I go along, so you understand kind of why I'm looking at what I am and not focusing on other things that maybe you're screaming at the screen that I should be looking at. And the main thing I have to go on is it has always done this. Right from the very first time I drove it with the old axle, and I put this new one in, and it's nothing has changed. So I've tightened up the various little things, you know, the drag link there, I guess it's not technically, you know, the tie rods here, the pitman arm is tight. I verified that. Everything like down here is tight, and I verified that. And I just don't think it could loosen up at will and then kind of tighten back up again willy-nilly. I really think there's only two things that could do that in the system, and that is the steering shaft or the steering box itself. And I tend to lean away from the steering box because this isn't like a looseness that, you know, you often feel. The box is loose, yes, because it's a GM box, but I just think unless there's parts missing inside that box, I don't think that it can, like, you know, disconnect and reconnect on its own, kind of like the feeling I'm getting. Now, could I be wrong about that? Yes, absolutely. I could be incorrect, but my feeling is that that's just, it's not the steering box. So, I mean, there is this rag joint down here. I mean, honestly, it looks pretty much okay, but I mean, it's there, it's intact. It's me from the future here, and I'm watching this footage back and seeing at the time that I really should have seen how bad that rag joint is. If you watch the pin, the actual shaft is shaking a lot more than the pin, and it's actually in some cases hitting the pin, which is indicative of a badly worn or loose rag joint. I feel like what I need to do is maybe take this steering shaft apart. I mean, this seal is bad here and everything, but maybe verify that there isn't something like rounded off in there. My main focus right now is up here because it looks very worn, and I'm not liking the way it looks. I think I'm going to take the steering shaft apart. I'm going to try to, and see what we see. Alright, so the steering shaft is out, and see, this is why I didn't really suspect it in the first place, because there's lots of safeties built in with this stuff. Like, this has the pins that directly connect, this connects to the steering box, but these pins are kind of a safety to keep it from, you know, wandering too much, but it still could wander within the confines of those. That said, the rag joint isn't as good as I thought it was, because the section I could see, the section I was looking at, was like in here. Which, that looks good, but then you see that it's like, it's almost worn completely through in some places. Some places it is worn completely through, it's blown out. And it's definitely bad. Is it the source of our problem? I'm not sure. I am going to replace it. I don't know. Oh, it's good that I didn't try to use this replacement steering box that I had got from this guy with the axles, because completely different size. And I did double check the steering box. I put a pair of vice grips on it to make sure that there's no, like, too much looseness between, you know, the input shaft and the pitman arm. And it's not really that loose, honestly. So I separated the two, and I mean, all the parts are there and they're still greased. I just don't see that there's any way that this could have... Clip is good. I don't see that there's any way that this could have really failed that bad either. I mean, sure, the grease seal was bad, but it's made to slide up and down inside of there, which it was doing. I can't see that this is really the problem either. So the problem here is I don't see anything in the steering shaft that could cause this here. Maybe in the rag joint. I'm a little... I mean, yeah, the rag joint's bad, but to feel like that, to feel like a total disconnect for a second or two or three, I don't know. It could be. So if it's not this, it's the steering box. Now I have no good way without stripping the steering box down to eliminate it, and it's the more expensive part. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to replace the rag joint, and I'm either going to see if I can get a new seal for this or replace this whole assembly. If I can just get a seal for it, I'll just reseal this, cap it, and off we go to the races. I mean, a good steering box is $300-400 at least. You can get really expensive steering shafts that eliminate this type of joint and have like a U-joint in there, and I think those are like $300. I'm not going to do that route because I can't afford it. These shafts work just fine when they're all, you know, sealed up and put together. I guess that's our course of action here, since we have a very low budget. Well, the absolute correct parts were either really expensive or unobtainium. This is the correct part, so we'll replace that. And the boot, I'm not sure that it's right. It's for I believe this is for a Camaro, but I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna basically make this hole a little bigger and install it in there, and it'll be close enough, better than what we got anyway. The sole purpose of this is to keep the grease in the upper section, so we're gonna try to make it do that. I believe that this spot, yeah, that'll probably be, we could probably stretch that down over it. I don't know if the Camaro steering shaft is smaller. I thought it was the same size, and I've heard people making use of these to work, but I don't know. We're gonna find out. All right, I think I've got this thing lined up right. We're gonna find out. No, well, let's see. Yeah, let's see what we got here. I have to split this shaft if I want to change this. Okay, so if you're not familiar with how the steering shaft is supposed to function, this is a collapsible portion. If you get in an accident, there's one main thing keeping the steering wheel from hitting you in the chest, and that is these nylon plastic pins here break, and this section collapses on itself, allowing the steering box and the frame or whatever to come closer to the cab without that steering wheel inside the cab moving or being pressed backwards. What you can do is use shear pins in here, which I will probably do when I pull this out. So I'm going to drill these two out, and then we'll be able to separate them out and get the seal off. got the shaft separated, and it's still a little warm from the torch. And I put this on, so I am going to pack this full of grease and put it back together. Oh, here's the nice expensive high temp grease. Okay, we're gonna put this in here. Hey, I got one in. Okay, just gotta get this side in. Don't seem to. There we go. Okay, I think I got it in here. Okay. Alright, well that was definitely cheaper than paying a couple $100 for a replacement steering shaft. And we've got the boot. Okay, there we go. Push it down all the way and seat the boot all the way. Okay. We have enough compression movement. Okay, we still have a ball joint effect. All right. And we'll just pin this back together. Okay, that allows us to compress it for installation too. So let's put this in. We've got our hardware cleaned up from before. Okay, now let's tighten these up. Okay. Oh, this one. Okay. So what you want is something that is going to shear real easy under compressive force, or in this case side loading, because the pin's going this way and the force would go that way when it collapses. You don't want it to be too strong, and weakness doesn't particularly matter, because the only thing it has to stop right now is the shaft pulling apart, which there's not a lot of force on that. So I mean, when you go over a bump or something, or you have some cab or frame flex, there's going to be a little bit of that taken out, in the shaft as it moves a little bit, but it should not be that much, and it shouldn't be very forceful. If it is, you've got a problem. So I'm going to use cutter keys. And these aren't very strong, but they're strong enough to keep the shaft together under normal movement. But if you have a sudden sharp blow, these things will shear. They're not tremendously strong and direct side loading like that. So yeah, let's put them in. These are mostly made to hold like castle nuts on screws, and they do shear on there if you give them enough force, but the idea is to kind of provide just enough to keep it from shearing, except until you reach a certain point. So that's our goal here. There we go. We got our pins in place. All right. So will that steering shaft and rag joint correct our problem? I don't know. There are some people who've had a bad rag joint who describe symptoms like I've been having. It does happen, but at any rate, we've corrected everything that could have been physically broken or sloppy in the steering system, from the steering wheel all the way down to the knuckle there. So I mean, the other things are all splined or solid ball joints, or brand new ball joints at this point. So the only thing remaining is the steering box. If this doesn't do it, I guess I'll have to spring for the steering box. But next step is testing. All right, another test drive. Let's let this warm up a little. liking this. Other than the steering wheel being a little loose before it actually engages, you know, about quarter turn, which, you know, if you're going back and forth, that's almost a full, you know, half turn of the wheel before you engage it. I'll shut this down so you can actually hear me here. Yeah, so I mean, it's like a half turn of the wheel, you know, side to side before you actually have like too much engagement, you know, and it drives like an old sloppy gearing box. I might see if I can take just a hair more of the lash out. I've been going very conservative taking the lash out of the box because I'm trying not to crush this box and have to get a new one. Even though I should, but it's a money thing right now. Anyway, you can do 50 mile an hour in this thing, and you know, you know, other than the looseness in the steering wheel, you can do it. It doesn't like scare the poop out of me like it did before, so that's a good thing. It is halfway drivable now. It'd be much more drivable if we could take some of the lash out of that box, which I think we will do, but there's no point doing that and test driving it. For now, I'm tentatively going to declare the wandering issue part of it resolved. Like I said before, we knew the steering wheel was loose, and that contributes to your overcompensation when it was wandering, but the root cause, the wandering, is done. So I guess it was mostly that rag joint, so hallelujah. And it didn't cost me a ton of money, just the new rag joint, and I think it cost me about, between the rag joint and the boot, I think it was like $50 or $60, which was cheaper than the $200 for a steering shaft and the $150 for a fully, you know, not opened box rag joint. I'll take it, basically, is what I'm saying. All right. So it's possible, very possible, that this beast might finally be done and ready for the road. I mean, it drove okay on the road. I don't know if I'd want to drive it a lot at highway speeds just because of its road manners. It's made to go off-road. It's made to, you know, use that four-wheel drive, but yeah, it's a beast. It sounds like a beast. It runs like a beast. And I think, like I said before, it runs and drives power-wise about similar to the 350s and square bodies that I've driven. Very similar from a power standpoint, probably a little bit more torque, but very similar driving experience. So it's not like you're significantly downgrading your driving experience going to this engine. Like I originally thought maybe that, you know, it would be slower, probably more akin to like the 292 inline 6 or something like that, but no, I was pleasantly surprised. So yeah, I think we are at long last maybe ready to call this mostly complete. I don't know what I'm going to do with it now. I'm going to give it a bath. It needs a bath, a wash, considerably, because it's been sitting here waiting on steering parts and for me to resolve the steering issues. So we're gonna give it a nice scrubbing by hand, and you know, got to protect that tractor paint job, you know. So yeah, I think she's road ready. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm hesitant to take it to a car show because of the bad paint job. You know, this is just me painting in the driveway, and you know, my body panel gaps aren't the best and everything, but maybe it could win some kind of, you know, unique hot rod award or something, but I don't know. Anyway, if you like what we're doing here, project wise, or if you have suggestions of what I should do with this truck, you leave it in a comment down below. Anyway, as usual, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.